Welcome to Storytime. Today's featured story is Puss in Boots. Once upon a time, there were three brothers named John, David, and Bruce, who were the sons of a poor miller. The miller did not have much to leave his sons, and when he passed away, all that was left to divide between them was the mill, a donkey, and a cat. The mill was left to the eldest son, David. The middle son, John, inherited the donkey, and Bruce, the youngest, ended up with the cat.
"Aw, what good is a cat?" cried Bruce. "I can't even afford to feed the poor animal."
Much to Bruce's surprise, the cat began to speak. "Dear sir, you have nothing to worry about," the cat assured him. "All I require is a sack, a pair of boots made specially for me. Soon you will see you have received the best inheritance of all. You're not as unlucky as you think you are." Bruce wasn't quite sure what to make of this, but he thought that since it was odd enough that the cat could speak, perhaps the cat would also be true to his word. He quickly fashioned a pair of boots in the cat's size and found a sack. Seeing the cat jump to its feet, Bruce laughed and decided to call him Puss in Boots. Puss strutted away confidently into the woods. You see, he had a plan. He gathered some carrots from a garden, check, and put them in his sack, and then hid behind the trunk of a tree and waited for a rabbit to find his trap. Ooh, this cat is super duper smart. Soon, Puss in Boots was rewarded for waiting. He leaped out from behind his hiding spot and closed the bag on his catch. Puss was very pleased with himself and moved happily on to the second step of his plan. Ooh, I can't wait to see what happens next. His next stop was the castle, and so he ran excitingly out of the woods and over the bridge toward it. When he arrived at the castle, he asked to speak to the king and was soon taken to see him. The king's daughter, the princess, was sitting next to him. "Your Majesty," said Puss in Boots, "I have been sent by the Marquis of Carabas to deliver you this gift, a plump rabbit for you to eat."
"Please, tell the Marquis that his gifts have been well received,"
said the surprised king. At those words, the cat bowed and left the castle. The next day, Puss in Boots returned to the castle with a tray of fresh fish. Ooh. Then on each of the following days, he returned to the patronage, a plump rabbit or some other treat. Soon the king and the princess announced that they would love to meet the mysterious Marquis. Hearing this news, Bruce was scared that the king would discover that he was not a Marquis and lived in a miserable cottage. But Puss in Boots had a plan. "Sir Bruce, I'll take care of everything," Puss in Boots cried. "Take off your clothes and jump in the river." Moments after Bruce jumped into the river, the king's carriage appeared on the road.
Help us, your Majesty! My master, the Marquis of Carabas, needs your help!"
cried Puss in Boots.
"His clothing has been stolen by thieves!"
The king made his carriage stop.
"Stop!"
And he made his coachman rescue the poor Marquis.
"My friend," cried the king, "please accept our invitation to the castle to try off. I will give you new clothing, and all of this will soon be nothing more than a bad memory."
I accept with pleasure, King," called Bruce as he was pulled from the water. At the castle, the cunning cat tried to save time. He confided to the king that his master had been very upset by this incident.
"Will you please stay with him for a while?"
said Puss in Boots daringly, just until he comes to his senses. "For my part, I will go ahead and make sure everything is in order when we receive you. Okay, King?" The king agreed, which made his daughter very happy. She found that she quite liked the Marquis. Ooh! Bruce was looking quite splendid as the clothing that the king had given him suited him to perfection. He had never been so well dressed. Bruce could barely contain his excitement. Ooh! Meanwhile, Puss in Boots ran ahead, readying the third step of his clever plan. I wonder what he's going to do next. He threatened all of the country folk he met with horrible things and ordered them to say that this land belonged to none other than the Marquis of Carabas if they were asked. A little while later, the king, the princess, and the false marquise returned to the road. Along the way, the king began to question the farmers who were working in the fields.
"Tell me, my brave fellows," he called out, "to whom does this large and well-maintained land belong?"
"Your Majesty, they are the land of the Marquis of Carabas, our much-loved master," the farmers shouted in unison. A little farther down the road, Puss in Boots arrived before a big castle that belonged to an ogre. Uh-oh. He knocked on the door and heard a growl in response.
I am one of your greatest admirers," the cat called out. "I've heard that you are capable of doing many wonderful things."
Flattered by these words, the ogre opened the door and invited the cat inside. For the occasion, the ogre brought out a normal-sized set, a tea set for the cat.
"I know, for example," continued the cat, "that you can change into very large animals."
"Yes, that's right,"
the ogre grumbled. That seems too far-fetched to be true," replied the cat. To prove that he could, in a flash, the ogre transformed into a huge, ferocious lion.
"Oh, what a big, scary lion you can be," said Puss. "But I bet you can't turn into anything as small as a mouse."
That cheeky little cat, thought the ogre. I'll show him. In the blink of an eye, the ogre changed into a tiny field mouse. Before he had a chance to realize that he had been tricked, Puss snatched the little mouse and gobbled him up. And that was the end of the ogre. Oh my goodness, how amazing and cunning is this cat? Moments later, the royal carriage came to a stop outside the ogre's castle doors. Puss quickly ran all over the castle, tidying up all the rooms before he went to open the door. "Welcome, Your Majesty, to the grand castle of the Marquis of Carabas," greeted Puss as he bowed before the king. The ogre's kitchen was filled with all sorts of delicious food, and so the king, the princess, and Bruce sat down to eat a lavish feast.
"My dear Marquis," said the king, "you are such a fine man with plenty of land and a magnificent castle. Have you a wife?" "Your Majesty, I have never found love until this day," said Bruce, smiling at the princess. Ooh! With that, the king proposed that the Marquis of Carabas and the princess to be wed. Bruce and the princess were thrilled. Hip hip hooray! They had liked each other from the moment they first met. It wasn't long before Bruce, or as he was now known, the Marquis of Carabas, and the princess were happily married and living in the ogre's castle. "You see, Bruce," said Puss one day, "I told you I was worth more than the mill or the donkey." And that is the end of our story. If you would like some more stories on my channel, don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye!